All right, let's dive into one of the longest, most epic arguments in human history, Western philosophy. Now, this isn't just about old guys with beards, okay? Think of it more like a 2,500-year-long relay race of ideas, a nonstop debate trying to answer the biggest questions we could ever ask. And it all boils down to questions like these. Seriously, what is all this stuff around us? How can we be sure about anything? And what are we supposed to do with the little time we have? These aren't just for a classroom. They're the questions that keep us up at night. Everything we're about to explore is a passionate attempt to find an answer. So, our story kicks off in ancient Greece with this just massive shift in thinking. This was the first real revolution. It was this move away from explaining the world with stories about gods and monsters and towards something totally new, something called reason. I mean, think about it. Before this, if the sea was rough, you'd say, Poseidon must be angry. But then these early philosophers started asking different questions. Questions like, okay, but what is the sea actually made of? What makes it move? This incredible jump from supernatural stories, from mythos to logos, that right there is the birth of Western philosophy. And the first thing they got totally obsessed with was finding the arche. It's this Greek word, pronounced arche, for the one, single, fundamental stuff that everything else in the universe comes from. They were like the original cosmic detectives, searching for the ultimate building block of reality. And wow, did they have different ideas. You had Thales, who said it's all water, which kind of makes sense, right? It's everywhere. But then Anaximander goes way more abstract, suggesting it's something he called the apeiron, this boundless, undefined, infinite substance. Others bet on air. And then you have Heraclitus, who picked fire, not just as a substance, but as a perfect symbol for a universe that's always, always changing. And that variety of ideas led to the first great philosophical showdown. In one corner, you have Heraclitus, saying the only thing that's real is change. His famous line is, "You can't step in the same river twice." But in the other corner, you've got Parmenides, who argued with pure logic that change is just an illusion. He said true reality is one single unchanging thing. This epic clash between change and permanence. Well, it's a theme that philosophy will keep coming back to again and again. So after trying to figure out the cosmos, the baton of ideas gets passed, and philosophy takes this really dramatic turn. The second revolution looks away from the stars and turns inward. The new focus? The human mind, ethics, and society itself. And the man at the center of this shift is Socrates. This one quote tells you everything you need to know about him. He didn't really care what the universe was made of. He cared about what we're made of. He was all about virtue, justice, and that relentless, sometimes annoying, search for self-knowledge. And his main tool was the Socratic method. The whole point wasn't to give people answers, it was to ask better questions. He'd walk up to someone who thought they were an expert and start picking apart their beliefs, revealing all the contradictions, until they reached this state of total confusion, called aporia. But for Socrates, that confusion was the whole point. It was the moment you realized you knew nothing, that the real search for truth could finally begin. Now, here's the crazy part. Socrates never actually wrote a single word. Everything we know about him comes from his students, and the most famous of them all was Plato. And Plato didn't just write down what his teacher said. Oh no. He took those ideas and built one of the most magnificent and influential philosophical systems ever created. And right at the heart of Plato's whole system is his theory of forms. He argued that this physical world we see and touch, it's just a flickering, imperfect shadow of a higher, true reality. In that higher realm exists the perfect forms, the ideal blueprint of justice itself, of perfect beauty, of the ultimate good. You can't see them with your eyes, only with your mind. It's just like his famous allegory of the cave. We're all just prisoners staring at shadows on a wall, thinking that's reality, until we're dragged out into the sunlight. But remember, philosophy is an argument. And who was Plato's greatest student? Aristotle. And Aristotle fundamentally disagreed with his master. While Plato was looking up to this other perfect world, Aristotle put his feet firmly on the ground. He said, no, the real world is this one, the one we can see and touch and measure. For him, knowledge comes from observing the world around us, not from remembering some perfect form. And just like that, you have the timeless clash between idealism and empiricism. Aristotle was all about being systematic.
He came up with this brilliant framework, arguing that if you want to truly understand anything, say a statue, you have to ask 4 questions about it. What's its material cause? What's it made of? Bronze. What's its formal cause? Its shape or design? The sculptor's blueprint. What's its efficient cause? Who made it? The sculptor. And maybe most importantly, what's its final cause? Its purpose or telos? To be admired. This practical, analytical approach basically laid the groundwork for Western science. Okay, now we're going to hit the fast-forward button. We're leaping across centuries of medieval philosophy, where thinkers were busy blending Greek ideas with religious faith. But then, the scientific revolution happens, and it sparks the next huge philosophical shift, the dawn of the modern mind.
And the guy who kicks it all off is René Descartes. He looked at the world, saw all these new scientific discoveries clashing with old beliefs, and decided to do something radical. He was going to doubt everything. I mean, everything. His senses, his body, the world itself, until he found one thing, just one single thing, that was absolutely certain. And he found it. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. He couldn't doubt that he was a thinking thing that was doing the doubting. And right there, on the bedrock of his own mind, he started to rebuild all of knowledge. And this set up the central fight of modern philosophy. On one side, you had the rationalists, like Descartes, who believed true knowledge comes from pure reason, that we're born with certain innate ideas. And on the other side, you had the empiricists, like John Locke, who argued, no way. They claimed the mind is a tabula rasa at birth, a blank slate, and everything we know, we learn through our 5 senses.
So this debate raged back and forth for decades. That is, until this absolute giant of a thinker, Immanuel Kant, came along and proposed a revolutionary idea. He basically said, guys, you're both right. Think of it like this. Our experience gives us the raw data of the world, but our minds come with pre-installed operating software, concepts like space, time, and cause and effect that organizes all that data into something we can actually understand. It was a mind-bending synthesis that changed philosophy forever. But philosophy, as you know, never, ever stands still. After Kant, the next revolution went even deeper. Philosophers started to question the very foundations that had held up Western civilization for centuries, the foundations of meaning, of morality, and even of God.
And nobody throws a philosophical grenade quite like Friedrich Nietzsche. When he famously declared God is dead, he wasn't just, being an edgy atheist. He was making a profound cultural diagnosis. What he meant was that the central belief that gave Western culture its morality, its values, its meaning, the Christian God, was no longer a believable source of authority in the modern scientific world.
And for Nietzsche, this was both terrifying and totally liberating. The death of God left a huge vacuum, a crisis of meaning that he called nihilism. But it also presented an incredible opportunity. For the very first time, humanity was set free. We were now challenged to become creators of our own values, to decide for ourselves what a meaningful life looks like.
This leads us straight into existentialism. Thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre stared right into that vacuum. His killer phrase, existence precedes essence, basically flips all of traditional philosophy upside down. See, a knife is designed with a purpose, an essence, before it even exists. But humans? We just show up. We exist first, with no blueprint, no predefined purpose. We are, as he put it, condemned to be free, and we are completely responsible for creating our own meaning through the choices we make.
So, from the stuff of the cosmos to the nature of the self, from the search for absolute certainty to the terror of radical freedom, we have covered a ton of ground. And what we've seen is that philosophy isn't some dusty book of answers, right? It's a living, breathing, evolving conversation.
It really has been a relay race. The first Greeks started the race by moving from myth to reason. Socrates grabbed the baton and turned the focus inward. Descartes took it and rebuilt knowledge on the foundation of the self, and then Nietzsche and the existentialists challenged us to run the race without any solid ground beneath our feet at all. And that's the most important takeaway here. This 2,500-year-long argument, it's not over. It didn't end. The baton has now been passed to every single one of us. Those big questions about reality and truth and how to live a good life, they're as urgent today as they ever were. So the only thing left to ask is, what questions are you going to ask?